Hi, everybody. I'm Miss Shelley with the Hudson Area Public Library, and I'm with Miss Sara and one of our favorite people in the world, Santa. As you know, we normally have a very big holiday party at the library, and Santa comes and gives out books to kids, and we have a wonderful time. We can't do that this year. So we are doing this interview with Santa from questions that were sent to us by kids. And also, Santa's going to visit us Saturday, December 19th at Pepperfest Park from 11 to 12:30. So you're going to drive by with your parents. We have goodie bags for you from Santa. And it's at Pepperfest Park, and it's going to be a great time. So we hope you'll all join us, and we'll get right to it. We are going to convey all our kids' questions and hear what Santa has to say.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Oh, I'm so excited to see you. Things are so busy up at the North Pole right now. The elves are making toys, and we're starting to pack the sleigh, and it's just very exciting. And I'm so glad that I could have this interview with you. And I understand you have some questions for me?
We do.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Let's hear one of the questions.
All right. Miss Sara, you want to start?
Yes. Lucy has a few questions for you. Her first question is, what do elves eat?
Well, elves love cookies and candy canes and pizza. And I have one of their candy canes here I wanted to show you. They just love eating candy canes. So I borrowed one of the candy canes so you could see. Yeah, this is one of the small candy canes that they have. What do you think of that, huh? Yeah, and on their pizza, they put chocolate chips and marshmallows and maple syrup. Very yummy.
No pepperoni.
That's quite
no,
the pizza.
No pepperoni. No, they like candy.
Okay. Lucy also wants to know, do the elves have parents, or did Mrs. Claus raise them?
Well, that's a really interesting question, because elves, they tend to take care of each other, and they form little groups. Like there's the group that makes the Legos, and the groups that make the slime, and the group that make the Hatchimals, and they take care of each other the way that you might take care of your little sister or brother, or you have an older brother or sister who takes care of you. So they become a family, and they take care of each other.
Okay. And how many elves are there?
Well, there are a lot of elves, because we've had to really start building some new buildings up at the North Pole. And I mentioned the Legos, everybody wants them. So we had to put on a whole new wing for the Legos. And then we had to build a great big building for slime. And it takes a lot of elves. But if you figure it takes an elf one day to make a toy, and we have 364 days a year, because you don't work on Christmas, we end up with around 90,000 elves. That's a lot of elves, and a lot of pizza and candy canes. Well, yeah, cookies. But I'll tell you more about the cookies later.
All right.
Great. Well, Evan, he had a question for you. He was wondering, is he on the naughty list?
Let me check. Hold on. Could you check the naughtiness list and the nice list for Evan? Okay. Well, actually, Evan is on the nice list. But what they're saying is, what was that? What was that again? Oh, they're saying he needs to pay a little bit more attention. And if he'd just pay a little bit more attention, then he'd really be on the nice list.
All right. Evan also wants to know about the reindeers and who is the naughtiest reindeer. He suspects that it's Blixen.
Well, you know, uh, ra- my reindeer are actually the nicest reindeer, but there have been naughty reindeer, and and sometimes they wouldn't let Rudolph play in their reindeer games.
Hmm.
And so they were being naughty to him. But Donner is one of our biggest, strongest reindeer, and Donner has a heart of gold, and he's very strong. And when he saw that those reindeer were being kind of like bullies, and that's not good to be a bully, he went over to those reindeer and he said, I want you to stop being a bully, and I want you to start playing with Rudolph. Just because he's a little different doesn't mean that you shouldn't play with him.
That's great.
Yeah. Do you have another question?
Mhm.
Yes, we have a question from Casey. How many elves work with you?
Well, all of the elves work together, but I think he might be asking about Christmas Eve and who goes with me in the sleigh. Well, yes, I have a couple of elves that go with me in the sleigh. One of the elves is called Google Eye, and Google Eye can see 10,000 miles. He has eyes like telescopes, so he can find the way. So whenever I need to go somewhere, I always turn to Google and say, hey, Google, which direction should we go? And Google Eye tells me. And my other elf is Bernard. And some of you may have heard of Bernard, but he's our head elf. And he's the one that makes sure that the right presents are in my bag before I go down the chimney. Isn't that
Good.
interesting?
Important job for sure.
Oh, it is.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a big job.
So it sounds like Mika has an elf on the shelf, and its name is Little Sparkle. And so Mika wants to know how long Little Sparkle has worked with and for you.
Oh, yes, I know Little Sparkle. She was one of our best elves, and she was working in the American Girl Doll factory, and she wanted to get out and see the world. So we said, sure. But here's the secret. Most elves are 600 years old. Yeah,
Wow.
600 years old. And they started making toys out of wood many, many, many hundreds of years ago. And we went from wooden toys now to electronic toys. But she wanted to go out and visit. But she comes back to me every night. She flies back to the North Pole and makes a report on who's been naughty and who's been nice. Ho, ho, ho.
All right, Delia has a question for you. How did Rudolph get his red nose?
Oh, now that's a story. It begins with telling you about how reindeer fly. They fly because I use magic fairy dust to sprinkle on them to make them fly. And as a matter of fact, I have some of that magic fairy dust with me right now. And can you see it? Yeah. And the red fairy dust is what makes them fly. And what happened was I had some of this red fairy dust, and I accidentally spilled it on some of their oats out in the barn. And I didn't know it made them fly. And I came back the next evening, and all of the reindeer were stuck to the ceiling because it made them fly in the air. And I had to get ropes and stuff, and I had to pull the reindeer down. Well, I left a bag of red fairy dust laying around right by Rudolph's, where he lives, and Rudolph ate that whole bag of red fairy dust. And ever since then, his nose has been glowing bright red. And that's how Rudolph got his red nose.
Incredible.
Yeah. Well, we have lots of magic up at the North Pole.
Sounds like it for sure. Delia also wants to know if she's been good and what you might give her for Christmas.
Ooh, okay. Well, let me check. Bernard, there's a Delia who is asking about if she's been naughty or nice and what she might get for a gift. Okay. Yeah. Oh, really? Yes. Well, we're looking for her list, and I don't know if she sent us a list or not, but she is on the nice list. So Bernard's going to look to see if she sent us a Christmas list and which gift we picked out. But if she hasn't gotten that list to us yet, she needs to get it in the mail, and so we can look. But whatever she says, she's going to get a really special gift.
Very nice.
All right, Samantha wants to know, what size shoe do you wear, Santa?
Well, I wear a size 16 shoe. It's a big shoe. I need big boots, because I'm walking around on the snow and the ice up here at the North Pole, and you really got to be steady. So I have a great big warm boots, and they're size 16s. I wonder what size she wears. I bet you she probably wears like a size, maybe a size 7 or 8, maybe.
You'll have to check your list just in case she asked for shoes.
Boots. Yeah, shoes.
Yeah, or boots.
Mm-hmm.
So we also have Victoria, who's wondering about the Santas that she normally sees at the mall.
Oh.
And do you know all of your Santa helpers, or are you there at all of those malls?
Well, the thing with Santa is, before the season starts, I appear all over the world at shopping malls and parties, and I look different to whoever sees me. Two people could be standing next to each other looking at me when I'm in a mall, and they would each maybe see a slightly different version of me, because it's what's in your heart. And if you're a real believer, you'll see Santa. But yes, there are Santa helpers out there too. And those Santa helpers, we get together and have great big parties. And that's about the only way that I can attend a party, is to be surrounded by 50 or 100. And that way, no one knows who the real Santa is.
Love that.
Now, if your mom and dad Googles Santa's parties or Santa conventions, maybe you'll see that.
All right. Okay, the next question for you is, Wendy wants to know, what's your middle name?
I get asked that question quite a bit, and the thing is, it's not what's my middle name, but what's my name. I have so many names. Who am I sometimes? Sometimes I'm Kris Kringle, and sometimes I'm Father Christmas. And sometimes I'm Papa Noel. And around the world, I'm known by many names. When I first came to America, I was visiting some Dutch people who had a settlement in what we call New York City now, and they called me Cinder Claus. And in Paris, I'm known as Père Noel. I'm Old Saint Nick. I'm a jolly old elf. So it's not so much what's my middle name, but what's my real name? And guess what? Those are all my real names.
Wow.
Oh.
You must have a very long birth certificate, Santa.
Yes, I do. So do you have any more questions for me?
Jason, he'd like to know what the favorite food of a reindeer is. We heard about elves, but what about reindeer?
Oh, reindeer. Well, reindeer love carrots and mushrooms and parsnips and rutabagas. They like vegetables that grow in the ground because they can dig them up with their hoofs and eat them. So they like what we call root vegetables. And sometimes they'll eat like twigs or leaves on a small plant. But up at the North Pole, of course, it's too cold for any of those things to grow. So up there, they like oats. So we feed them lots of oats. Sort of like oatmeal, but without the milk and sugar.
Doesn't sound very tasty, does it, Miss Sarah?
Oh, to reindeer it is.
Okay.
Daniel wants to know, do kids ever ask for coal? Because maybe some kids like coal.
Yeah. So, actually, they do. Sometimes when kids are talking to me, they want to be really funny, and they want to ask me something funny. And sometimes they'll say, well, can I have some coal? Santa, I really want some coal. And they do that. And I tell them, well, I don't know. You only get coal if you've been really naughty. And then when I start to ask them about have they been naughty or nice, I find something that makes them nice. I can find something in everyone who makes them nice. The most important thing to be nice is to be kind. And if you're kind to your friends or kind to your family or your brothers or sisters or your neighbors, that you score big points. You get gold stars on the nice list.
That's great. Now, we have a kid named Raleigh, and he wants to know about if you've had like bad outcomes at your toy shop. Like, what is the worst?
Oh, yes,
you ever had?
yeah. There have been a few that, there have been a few toys that probably should have never been made. One was the pet rock, because everybody got a rock in their stocking, and they didn't appreciate that. And but I'm gonna tell you now, don't tell anybody about this because it's kind of a secret. But the elves made a toy once that looked just like me, but when you pulled its finger, it made a noise. Oh, and it made kind of a naughty noise when it pulled its finger. So Santa, don't pull Santa's finger on that toy. And that was the worst toy that I ever made.
Ooh. I think a lot of kids have experienced that with their dads.
Yeah. I'm not saying where the elves got the idea now.
Yeah. That's right.
Well, Joey has a serious question for you. He's wondering if you get cavities from eating so much candy.
Oh, yes. Well, actually, I've got Santa Magic, and I got my Santa Magic from the Queen of the Fairies, and things like cavities and colds and other things, they don't affect me or the elves. But I remember once, and if we got a minute, I'll tell you, the reindeer got the blue gnu flu, and they couldn't fly. Oh, they were so dizzy, and it was almost Christmas Eve. And I said, what am I going to do? They have the blue gnu flu. And I said, well, maybe the penguins could pull my sleigh. Well, they were too small. They couldn't fit in the harness. And then I thought, seals. We have seals up here. Maybe the seals could pull the sleigh. Well, but what if they saw some fish and dove down in the water? So I asked the polar bears, and the polar bears said yes, provided I give them a case of candy canes. So I hooked up the polar bears, and we took off in the air, and we flew through the sky, and the first house we landed on, oh, we came down so hard because those polar bears are so big, we woke everybody up in the house. So I had to use my Santa magic to slow down time until they could get back to sleep. And then I snuck down the chimney and I put the presents under the tree. But this year, the reindeer are going to wear masks because everyone else is wearing a mask. And I'm going to be wearing a face shield over, like they do the nurses do in the hospital, because it's important to protect each other from germs and viruses. And I'm going to do that not because I can catch it. I can't catch it. As a matter of fact, Dr. Fauci said that I cannot catch the disease. But I'm going to do it because it's the right thing to do. And it's the right thing for you to do too.
That's nice. You show so much kindness, Santa. We all appreciate that. Kara wants to know if you've actually been in her house or if you sent the elves down the chimney.
Ho, 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 ho. Yes, I've been down in her house. I went down. And do you know how I do it? Remember I was telling you about that red fairy dust? Well, the yellow fairy dust is what I use to get down the chimney. And I sprinkle some of the red fairy dust on my hat, and I get really tiny. And I go down the chimney, and I go, and then I get big again, and I open my bag, and I put the presents under the tree. And it's important, though, if you have a fire, to make sure that the fire sort of died down later in the evening, you know, and you need to be asleep when I come. So yes, and then say you don't have a fireplace, and I get asked this question a lot. Well, Santa, I don't have a fireplace, so how can you get in my house? Well, I have a magic key. This is my magic key, and this key will open every door on Christmas Eve. Yeah, it'll open every door, and it only works that night. So you can tell her, yes, I've been to her house.
Okay, Kara will be happy to know that, I'm sure.
Well, TJ wants to know, do you have a windmill?
Oh, a windmill. Well, we make a lot of windmills for the children in Holland. They like windmills. They put those on their Christmas list. No, we have energy that comes from the sun. So we don't use windmills because of all the snow and all the ice. The blades on the windmill get ice on them and snow, and they have trouble turning. So we got involved in this whole solar panel thing. And now we have solar panels up at the North Pole, and we're generating energy for our factories from the sunlight. That's how we do it. But yeah, there are windmills, but they're toys.
Fantastic. Mason wants to know what your favorite movie is, and I'm going to make a little plug for Elf, just because that's my favorite Christmas movie.
Oh my. Yes. Well, you know, my favorite movie is the best movie every year about Christmas. But some that I remember that I really, really like is The Grinch. I love the Grinch. I laugh so hard, and I love that little dog in the Grinch. And and you know, and the Grinch develops a heart, and he develops a love for Christmas. I love that movie. And then another movie I saw was Home Alone. Oh, Home Alone. And the family, you know, they leave for Christmas and they leave their little boy home, and what happens. That's one of my favorite movies. Elf. I love Elf. Oh my, that's a great movie. We don't have any too many 6-foot elves. We've had a few up at the North Pole. Most of them are smaller. And I've been enjoying the Christmas Chronicles, which is another movie that's come out. It came out last year on Netflix, and Christmas Chronicles 2 came out just a few weeks ago on Netflix. And that's becoming one of my favorite movies. So if you want a good Christmas movie, find the Christmas Chronicles.
I'll check that one out.
Sure.
Yeah. It's nice to know that you can get Netflix up in the North Pole.
Oh yes, we have all these video machines now. We have PlayStations and iPads and Nintendo Switches, and we have all these stuff that we have to test out to see how they work.
That was a fun job.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you've probably already answered this question, but Alyssa had the question, have you ever had strep throat?
No, as I've said, that I don't get those kind of things. But strep throat is a serious thing. And I'm so, whenever I hear that a child has got it, I really feel bad. And I send them good wishes, and I'll say a prayer, and I'll talk to people and say, please help them get well soon. And I know that some children get strep throat pretty often, and no, we don't have that. We don't have that. Only the blue gnu flu.
Yes. Well, Kylie would like to know a little bit more about Mrs. Claus. What is her real name, and how did you meet her?
Oh, is that ever something? I tell you, Mrs. Claus, her first name, people love her so much up at the North Pole. The elves love her so much, and she does so much for children. And sometimes she comes with me when I'm making visits, and she comes and helps out. Because they love her so much, they wouldn't even dream of calling her by her first name, because they respect her so much. Now, I know that some children will say mom, and some children actually call their mother by their mother's first name. But most of the elves just call her Mrs. Claus. I call her honey. I say, hi, honey. I'm home. Honey, I'm home. and well, we met. I was up at the North Pole, and I was just kind of walking around with the other elves, and I smelled something cooking. And I said, what could that be? Now, this was over 1,000 years ago that this happened, because she and I are both over 1,000 years old. And I smelled something, and I said, what is that? And she was baking something, and it was round, and it was light brown, and it was on a flat sheet. And I said, well, what is that? And she said, well, Santa, this is what I call a cookie. I just invented it. And I said, a cookie? And she said, I said, can I taste one? And she gave me my first cookie. And I fell in love with her at that moment. And I've been in love with cookies ever since. And that's how it happened.
That's wonderful. We all love cookies, so we all owe Mrs. Claus a very big thank you.
Yeah, she invented those.
Well, another question that you've kind of already answered is what would happen? Ellie wants to know what would happen if you got sick on Christmas?
Oh, well, you know, as I've mentioned, that we don't get sick up at the North Pole the same way that humans do, and so, but I know that there is a lot of concern right now because of what's going on with what they call COVID-19, that people are going to get sick and that maybe Santa won't come. But I can guarantee you that Santa will come on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, and we'll bring presents when we do. So you don't have to be worried about me getting sick and not showing up, because I promise I will show up and I'll bring presents for you.
That's great. I'm sorry to know that we have to be 6 feet apart this year, Santa, so I won't be able to give you a hug again.
Well, yes. Well, and as much as I love hugs, I love you having a safe and healthy life more than anything. So I'll stay 6 feet away too.
Okay. Our final question is from Ryan, and he's wondering, why don't you just use a plane on Christmas Eve?
Oh, try landing a plane on top of a house. Oh, that would be something. But no, I do have planes. I have planes and I have helicopters and I have ships and snowmobiles. I've even got a submarine, because you never know where I'm going to have to go and deliver presents. So sometimes under some conditions, yes, I'll have to use those. Have you ever, though, seen the movie The Polar Express? Oh, that's one of my trains in that movie. And it's a wonderful book, The Polar Express. And I would suggest, if you haven't read it, go to your library and check out a book called The Polar Express. And if you go to your library and you look at books about Christmas and Santa Claus, you'll find that in some of the books, you'll see me in a helicopter, or you'll see me even on a motorcycle. So a library is a good place to see all the different things I have. But no, I can't land a plane on a house.
I'm glad you've never done that to my house.
Yeah.
That'd be loud.
Yeah.
Well, and I got a little story to tell you too before we finish here. And how much more time in our interview do you think we have?
Well, that was our last question, but we can chat for a little bit for sure.
Okay. Well, before you get to your last question, I want to tell you a little Santa story. And this story is about my jingle bells and why I have jingle bells on my sleigh. Well, when I first started flying the sleigh and delivering presents, I just flew through the sky and I didn't really think about it. And I would get to where I was going. But then one year, I flew right into a flock of geese. Oh my goodness. And a goose hit me right on the chest. Oh, and was he ever mad? Oh, he was just honking and honking, honk, 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 honk. And I had feathers in my beard. Oh. So ever since then, I've put bells on my sleigh, and I and the geese and the ducks and the birds and the drones and everything else flying around out there can hear me coming. Isn't that an interesting story? Yeah.
It is. And
So, Merry Christmas.
I want to finish up by asking you about, we're a library, and so books are very important to us. They're not the only thing that we do, but they're a big part of what we do. If you're over 1,000 years old, How many books do you think you've read?
Ho, ho, ho. Well, Santa is a big reader. And Santa always has one or two library books checked out. And a few that I owe like 15 cents on. But other than that, I read books every week. And after Christmas, and after I've delivered all the presents, well, I have a little free time. So I like going to the library and looking around at the books. And they also have DVDs and cassette tapes, and some libraries even have more. They have toys and puzzles. So I like going there, and because I think the more you read, the more open your mind is, and the more open your mind is, the better you do at life, and the better you understand things. And now they even have books that are electronic. You read them on an iPad or a computer, and you can even check those out of the library.
Yes.
Yeah, you can go there and you can check them out, and sometimes there's a waiting list, but you can get it, and then you can read it, and then somebody else gets to read it. So they're really smart there at the library, the way they did that, because instead of buying 100 books, they bought a couple electronic copies of books, and they can share them with everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm a big reader. So is Mrs. Claus.
Oh.
Do you know what kind of books she reads?
Time to read too.
Cookbooks. Mrs. Claus reads a lot of cookbooks.
We have those at the library too.
Yeah.
Lots of
I read them too, because I like to cook too.
Great. Mrs. Santa should do her own cookbook.
We've thought about it, but not too many little boys and girls ask for a Mrs. Claus cookbook. I'm coming up with a broccoli cookie. That's my new thing, is a cookie made out of broccoli with lemon drops and cherries in it. And the reindeer seem to like it, but so far nobody else has.
I think
So
you
Just keep working on it.
yeah.
There.
Okay. Well, what do you say? Do you have any more questions?
Miss Sarah, anything else from you?
I can't think of any more questions. I've really enjoyed our chat today, Santa.
This has been
All right.
very fun, and we're so glad we get to see you Saturday the 19th at Pepperfest Park in North Hudson.
Okay, a quick note before I go.
Mhm.
I want you to remember the meaning of Christmas, the real meaning of Christmas. Christmas means many things to many people, and some believe one meaning and some have the other. But a lot of us believe that the Christmas meaning is that of a child being born. And another meaning of Christmas is me, Santa Claus, bringing presents and having lots of fun. But one of the most important meanings of Christmas is giving. Not what you get, but giving to others. So be kind to others and have a very, very Merry Christmas. Goodbye. Ho, ho, ho.
Bye, Santa.
Merry Christmas. Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas.